vocation, community, building a nation, maintaining victory. Teachers, leaders, traditional greatness, doing as much as we can, leaving into a community beautiful, beneficial, inherited in.
Peace, everyone. Welcome to another segment of Thunderground Thursday on Enlightenment and Transformation. And I am Chief Yuya coming to you this evening. Of course, I know, you probably say, I know what he's getting ready to do next. You're right. I'm going to welcome all of the first-time listeners. And I also want to welcome all of the committed, steady listeners who are consistently and constantly tuning in. And, you know, I also want to give some honor to those who are going to be coming in later. Whenever you make it here, just know that it was your time to get here. So I just want to welcome everyone into this space and let you know what we are and what we're doing. This is Thunderground Thursday. And Thunderground Thursday is a segment on Foundational Friday where we deal with some of the more in-your-face aspects of this work and in-your-face aspects of this struggle, namely those aspects that require us to take action, keeping in mind that we can learn as much as we want. We can dive into as much as this esoteric information as we see fit, but certainly without a desire to put our hand to something, without a desire to lunge forward and actually apply the things that we're learning and the things that we're knowing, they tend to lose strength because there's a total process that must happen when you're learning things, you know. And part of that total process is, you know, you're going from a state of ingestion of the information, and a lot of times through consistent or at least periodic intakes of that information, you know, you come to a really nice place of inspiration. Things are revealed to you, and then you become inspired. And then after you become inspired, then there's a movement towards condensing that which has been presented to you, or manifesting that which has been presented to you. So, you know, Thunderground Thursdays, just to let everybody know, is our opportunity to really take inventory and check how we've been dealing with the things that have been condensed to us. You know, the things that are yearning and striving to be presented and to be manifested. And, you know, those things that you hear in readings with people, and they say, you know, you're really supposed to be doing this and you're really supposed to be doing that. And the things we say, I know. Someone told me that before. I've been hearing that all my life. You know, what are you waiting for? Oh, I'm just, I don't know. That is the Thunderground Thursday opportunity to really figure out how to make some of those first steps. And, you know, you hear us say that a lot on Enlightenment and Transformation. We talk about first steps a lot. And a lot of that came really just from me doing a lot of workshops and community seminars and things over the years. And I used to say, well, I would hear at the end of a lot of, you know, workshops, because, you know, sometimes, you know when you're in that flow, you know, when you're just in that magical flow of teaching and presenting, and it's just, you're remembering everything that you need to remember, that, you know, and people are connecting, at least you feel they are, and everything. And I found that in a lot of those moments, at the end of all of that, people would say, okay, well, where do we start? And as an instructor, especially if you're not pushing a product to sell, you know, if you're pushing a product, then you really want people to feel that at the end. You want to give them a call to action. But if you're just teaching and trying to help and they say that, it's like, what? You almost feel like you failed. And it took me some time, maybe about 2 or 3 workshops, many years ago, where I realized that's what I need to deal with more than anything. Because if people haven't started the journey, then all you're doing is just overloading them and inundating them with all of this information. So I make that a high prerogative and an imperative of all the hosts. Try to move towards some type of action steps, some first steps. What do we do? So a lot of times you get the foundational spiritual information on Foundational Friday. Masterminds Monday, you'll start learning how to put the financial piece in place, so that way you can actually make certain moves that you need to make and feel that sense of confidence and surety. And then on Wednesdays, dealing with our newest Sappho, we might be, or Sister Kim may be, breaking down further something that was taught Friday, so you can better understanding. And then by Thursday, it's the action steps. This is what you got to do, and then it starts back over on Friday. So there's a cycle and there's a movement to everything. And sometimes, because we have such a intense hesitancy to start over, or to go through or really just to start over, we don't want to go through a process. We'll purposely stall a process just so that we don't have to have that feeling of starting over. I knew a young man once who did that. Like, he kept purposely attempting to fail the second grade, and he got left back one year, and then he just wouldn't do anything. And his parents had brought him to me to work with him. And by the time we finished building and talking and everything, what we discovered was that he didn't want to start over. He didn't want to start over in a new class. It didn't matter, all his friends were going there, and he just didn't want to start over. And a lot of times we're like that even as adults. We don't realize that we're only working with 10 numbers at the beginning of the day, 0 through 9. Everything after that is a repeat. So even if you're going to go beyond that born or that ether, you're going to have to start over. Even when you go beyond this living in this life, you're going to start over. You're going to start counting again. If you want to count to 11, if you want to count to 10, you have to start over. If you want to count to 50, you got to start over. 5 times. So, Thunderground Thursdays is kind of like the action step where you manifest what it is that you're doing, and we start again with our foundations. Sometimes you got to keep going back to the foundations, and pulling things from that. So, like I said, as an instructor and doing this for so long, and having situations where you're teaching, you're teaching up a storm. You have those moments where you're just teaching up a storm, and then you finish, and they say, so this was good, but where do we start? It's like, man, mission failed. And that's what it really is. If you're not leaving people with some clear instructions on what to do next, then you're not really doing anything. So that's a lot of the focus of what we're doing. All right. So what I'm gonna do real quick, I'm gonna play Sonic Libation just to kind of get my mind in a space. And you know what I've been doing, all these old background tracks, the music and stuff you're hearing, like I told you, this is all old stuff. Most of this stuff is off of cassette tapes. So I got my 4-track machine and my 2-track deck plugged in to my stuff, and it's been fun actually, just going through and reminiscing. I'm not a big picture taker, I never have been. So my way that I've always been able to kind of document periods in life has been through the music I've created. So it all reminds me of something. And I was listening to this one the other day, just kind of, bugging out. It was I did it a long time ago with a friend of mine. We were just having fun, 2 friends actually. And I was playing around on my piano, on the drums, and it just just playing, just feeling the vibe. But I think for what I want to speak about, it's appropriate. All right, so we're gonna start there, get our energy where it needs to be, and then once we do that, we're gonna come with tonight's message on Thunderground Thursday on Enlightenment and Transformation. I am Chief Yuya, and I will be right back after this.
Hey, my man had the trumpet too. When I looked up, I bugged out like, oh,
Yeah, we about to
kick it.
Break it down.
How it's supposed to be broke or kicked.
I'm gonna tell you this story. I'm up early in the morning, I'm about to roll. Got on my Sunday stretch, check out my fly pimp stroll. After sinning all week, it was time to heal. So I go to the place where we bow and kneel. Take a seat in the pews, looking crisp and clean.
Damn, look at the booty on Miss Green.
I shake it off and try not to look flawed. I can't forget I'm in the house of the Lord. It was kinda bug, so I smirk with laughter. All of a sudden, you walks in the pastor with a tailor-made suit. It was emerald green. He was in the pulpit in a gangster lean, with bling on his neck and his fingers was frozen. I knew something was wrong from the jailhouse posing. He shouted out aloud for protection's sake, locked the doors, and out came the collection plate. He was a
P at the PULPIT. That's where I be at. I be that no good hood with the jerked out limb.
I'm a church house pimp,
spitting him, sipping hen, devilish adrenaline. From Genesis to Benjamins, bring them in by the flock. Now our brother's hood rich.
Pimping at the pulpit. Kind of man use the Lord just to make $1. Read scripture and make the people holler. Wear fake collars, the foolish flock. But he drinks and smokes and plays pool a lot. Ayo, he foolish, he think nobody watching. God never sleeps, son, God be clocking. It ain't hard to spot ungodly lust. Mad fake like money, saying God we trust. Preachers just like us. Matter of fact, they worse, they all sin, have sex, smoke crack and curse. Like to practice first, before they read from their Bible. And ladies, be careful, they really want a wife. It's all a cycle, big business in church. You hating what I'm saying, but the truth it hurts. Yo, they stupid jerks, don't follow their program. Beware a pimp suit, slick talk from no man. They
PIMP at the PULPIT. That's where I be at. I be that no good hood with the jerked out limb.
I'm a church house pimp,
spitting him, sipping hen, devilish adrenaline. From Genesis to Benjamins, bring them in by the flock. Now a brother's hood rich.
From pimping at the pulpit, more people better go to masses, so we can stop seeing our women shaking their asses. Every brother just swear he pimping, talking slick, sucking spit, walking limping. Everybody just wanna get over, living in bliss, wickedness, but they dying sober. Devils most slide than cobras. Who's the joke? Crime broke, but they buying rovers. All a man wanna do is divide us, feed us mad fried food so we could get the itis. Every chick wanna look like J-Lo, playing it off like the angels, but they lost their halo. The city wanna see us in cages. I'm about to swallow the red pill so I can fight the matrix. Yo, I can't take their hatred. I love my peoples dearly, but I hate this fake shit.
Fake ass and shaded, drives a Mercedes, pimping on the ladies. It's still bullshit to me. Ex-pimps and players, $1,000 gators, living on trifle, tricking your disciples. Still bullshit to me. Heaven won't receive you. People don't believe you. They pimps at the pulpit, buried at the shoe fit. Still bullshit to me. Drives on Mercedes.
All right. There we go. Now I'm in, I'm in the zone now. Okay, I wasn't in the zone to do the show like I wanted to, so I had to kind of, get into my space, soak myself up with the stuff. That's what happens when you eat a green salad before Thunderground Thursdays. You really mess up your vibe. I had a nice salad with some avocado in it, and what else did I put in that thing? I don't even remember everything. Some tomatoes and some peppers and stuff, but it was just too mellow. So So I got on, I'm like, Thunderground Thursday. I need my action music. You remember the earlier music I was using? I gotta start using that again. Do do do, don't. So I came on. I was like, man, I can't. I'm not in the zone. I'm not in the zone. It's gonna be a dry show. So the song saved me, luckily. But yeah. So like I said, what I wanted to build on tonight was kind of covered a little bit, in the piece you heard, in dealing with the pulpit pimping, right? And of course, I did a segment a while ago, on just the preaching pimp, or the pimping preacher, however you want to look at it, and how that goes. But what I really want to speak about on this evening is the whole science of like salt, S-A-L-T, salt. And salt's been around, salt's been around. What I mean by that, just in my periphery, I have saltwater tanks that I use as, I wouldn't say a hobby, but I like tropical fish. And one of the things that you have to make sure with when you have tropical fish is that the saline levels are are appropriate for whatever type of fish you're trying to put in there. And but it's got to basically, you got to create a saltwater, like an ocean environment. And there's a certain level of salt that comes off of even the stones and the coral and things like that you put into that environment. And funny enough, when you think about the idea of salt, right, it's actually really salt is halite mineral, and it's earlier or more original or proper name. But there's something about salt that's very interesting in terms of I'm going to speak on this twice. I'm going to let you guys know that now before I even get started. And the two shows are going to sound like they're going to contradict one another, but they're not. Okay. Maybe they will. I don't really care. But they may sound like they're going to contradict each other. They may not. But so this idea of salt, right? Salt is a term where people say, "Oh man, you're the salt of the earth." Salt of the earth. And a lot of times that just means like you're a special person in the earth. So somebody will say that if you help them out or if you do something kind for them, they'll say, "Yeah, you're the salt of the earth," right? Or those people over there are the salt of the earth. Some people even take that title, like this is what we are, And there's a couple of like interesting sciences to pay attention to with that. I had someone say that to me many years ago, an elder woman, in which she was speaking about herself as like herself and her religious group and the power that she felt that they wielded. And she was saying, well, we're the salt of the earth, and really was referencing a scripture. So I said, yeah, Matthew 5:13, you are the salt of the earth, but what good is salt if it has lost its flavor? And I said, you forgot the last part. And I remember she hit me on my arm. She said, go ahead with that. It was kind of funny because I didn't know the woman. But the thing about it is that that part is key. But what good is salt if it has lost its flavor? And I want to kind of bounce back a little bit between this allegorical idea of salt and how salt also refers to where we're at in terms of hey, and I know they're doing this live whiz tonight on Channel 4, and I know a lot of you are really excited about seeing Queen I don't even call her Queen Latifah anymore, Dana Dana playing the whiz, and Common's in there doing some type of light-skinned bald-headed thing, and Mary J. Blige is in there screaming. So I know a lot of you are really excited about sending me IMs and texts about the whiz while it's playing, while I'm doing this show. But you can actually like save it and just send me kind of like an essay when the show is over, Yeah, for anyone who's interested in continuing to do that, feel free to send it after Thunderground Thursday, But so anyway, so this idea of salt, right? And what it means in terms of our responsibility to the earth as spiritually divine people. What is the salt supposed to represent? What is it supposed to be? Well, like she said, we're the salt of the earth. And I said, okay, well, salt is good and bad. I mean, salt is a great purifier. Salt, we obviously need it to balance the water in our body, and to also our nervous system uses salt. So salt is used all throughout our body. So we have to have salt, and we get it from a lot of different salt sources. It doesn't just have to be the chemical salt that many people intake. But like I said, I repeated to her the last part of that. I said, but what good is salt if it has lost its flavor? And I was thinking about something. Somebody sent something to me today about someone who was being called to question about some of their fundraising activities for something that they say that they're going to do. And now, you guys know I have a rule, and that rule is I do not tear down people who seem to be of my group in public. So the reason I say who seem to be, and I'm going to say I don't tear down melanin dominant people in public. They're not all in my group. They're not all a part of the we statements, but it may appear that way. So some of that stuff needs to be, handled and spoke about. For me, quietly, I think that's just a part of my own G code. Don't tear down your own in public. Even if they're not your own, even if they're snakes with dark skin, but they're not dark inside. So someone had sent something to me. It was kind of interesting, and they were speaking about, this person was doing a large amount of fundraising for a institution that they're saying that they're going to build. But the thing is, if you have any type of, and this person was putting forth some very good questions and was bringing some other people to cause and saying, well, what about them and what about that? They also haven't done what they said they were going to do, and we're not critically questioning them. And as I'm listening to it, and it was an excellent video, because I said, this is the type of critical thinking we need. But there was a lot of comments that were saying, well, why is it that whenever we trying to do something, everybody has something to say? Why are we always tearing each other down and this and that and that and that? And, people were bringing up that crab it's like a bunch of crab in the barrel and that whole thing. And it's like, that's the sickness of the sheeple. That's the sickness of the people who are so invested into blind faith religions that when someone comes in front of them and presents a paradigm that resembles that blind faith religion, they immediately get dumb. So if you say anything that brings critical questioning to the table, they see that as an unwarranted, illogical attack. And like this individual in the video is just saying, well, what about this? You fundraising? We haven't seen this. We haven't seen that. We haven't seen that. The numbers are changing, legitimate questions. And the thing about it, as I'm watching it, I could really tell, like, okay, this person is being nice, because if you know anything about business, a lot of times people will, like, I've had these hustles in the streets sometimes where I'm walking and like the kids will come up and they'll say, hey, will you devote, donate $5 to our basketball program or something? And I'm looking at them like, get out of my face. I met a young man like that. We're still, pretty close to this day. He tried to hustle me like that in front of the supermarket one day, and he said he had this program, and all he kept showing was his Facebook logo. He was like, yeah, it's about, it was a Facebook logo and a picture of Trayvon Martin. And he was like, yeah, it's about saving our streets, saving our children. And I'm looking at him, and I mean, I'm gonna give you one of my physiognomy tips. His two front teeth had these huge yellow tartar stains on them, and he had a nice smile, but these two front were just horrible looking. So I'm looking at his teeth while he's talking, and I'm saying, nothing honest comes out of that mouth. No way. No way would the divine give you teeth that look like that and you're an honest person. So I'm just listening to him, and I leaned in. I said, I'm not gonna say anything, but I said, I know this is a con. So I said, there's a smarter way to do this where you could actually make money and help, but I said, this is obviously a con. You don't have anything but this little card that you printed up, and you just want some money, and there's a bunch of them walking all around the parking lot. And he was like, he leaned, he said, yeah, it actually is a con. He said it doesn't even exist. Some guy just gave us these stickers, and he said, just bring me back a certain amount for the stickers. So I said, okay, well, that's how we weed out some of the beta material. You got to put them through experiences like that. But I said, I'm an alpha. You're not going to get me with that. So we ended up talking, and actually eventually the police agent showed up and were like, you guys got to get out of here and everything. So, but the thing is, right, we look at instances like that, and if you've ever built anything, or if you've ever had a business, or if you've ever fundraised, you know what it looks like to do those activities. See, that's why it's so easy to fool people a lot, because if people are just followers and they've never actually done anything, it's very easy to trick them. It's very easy to indoctrinate them into blind faith movements, or blind faith religions, or blind faith cult of personalities. Okay, because they've never actually gotten off this sofa and done anything, so they don't know what it looks like in the real world. You can tell them anything, So this individual who's been doing quote unquote fundraising, I'm looking at it clearly. I'm like, no, this is not even real. This is a con. There's nothing. You're just putting money in his pocket. Like, there's nothing going on here. But that's because I've actually done something. You see, but what makes this individual and so many other individuals like him so effective is that he has the salt, the flavoring of something that's much older than his idea. Okay, so it's very similar to like when we come into consciousness and we're looking for people to either follow or to learn by, people who would teach us, or we're looking for different things. A lot of times we may come from a paradigm that in all honesty we feel more comfortable with. That's just the truth of it. We feel more comfortable with it. So if someone can present that old paradigm to us, but on top of that paradigm, where they have the paradigm sitting there, and underneath it they have new information, such as quote unquote conscious information, higher awareness information, elevated consciousness, elevated sight information, metaphysic information, whatever you want to call it, but they put it under the umbrella of that old salt. Or really, technically, probably the salt will be under it, really, but we'll get into why. Then what happens is we feel more comfortable with it. So like in the conscious community, you have a lot of preachers. You have people who get really emotional about really teaching somebody else's material. Because I could read out of Dr. Ben's book, and I can take about 5 or 6 books and correlate events and get real excited about it. Yeah, and in 1963, this came out, and then that came out in and it just keep going. I'm not really saying anything. I'm just basically reading a newspaper. Or reading passages from other people's book. But if I put the right type of emotion into it, if I bite my lip at the right moment, if I have my hair cut the right way, if I have the right type of shirt on, if I point at the right moment, if I whisper like this when it's necessary, and then I raise my voice and let you know like that, if I play that little, game, then people say, he is so passionate about what he's talking about. He is so passionate about the movement. Not realizing that what you're really connecting to is an old model. And because that model was older and it's more deeply ingrained, you really are referencing back to that. So what happens is that even if that pimpin' preacher has some information of value, because a lot of times they do, because it's rhetoric that they've stolen or borrowed, you don't really pay attention to the content. You're paying attention to the old salt that's on it. You see, so it's just like sometimes you'll feed people food. I was matter of fact, I was at the supermarket recently with a friend of mine. Late night, we were working on a project, doing some work, and we got kind of hungry. So I was like, well, this is a 24-hour supermarket. We can go get some salads and stuff, right? Because they have these little salads, whatever they make. So we get there, and salads were all out. So I was like, listen, man, let's just get some vegetables, throw the stuff together. So he's like, yeah. Now he doesn't really eat like me. So he's like, oh, they got bacon bits? Then he told me about some, I never heard of this product called Ham On. You guys might know about it, Ham On. And Ham On is like this seasoning you put on your food, and it has the flavor of ham. He said it's like Sazon. He was like, you heard of Sazon? I was like, yeah. He was like, it's Ham On. So I never heard of that. So he was like, yeah. So he's going in and out of aisles. He was like, yo, they ain't got no ham on in here? So, he's buying all this junk. And by the time he was done, I was like, yo, it's not even a salad now, man. Like, that's another plate of poison. Lo and behold, he makes this little thing when we get back, and he gets sick, of course, because you're eating that stuff it was like 2-3 a.m., But see, the thing is, even if introducing something healthier, introducing something newer like a salad, still got salted on with these old habits that become the predominant piece. Now, this goes back to a question somebody asked a while ago in Chief Speaks, and he had asked a question in regards to individuals who may practice a religion that was given to them by slave makers. Is it possible to unite with those type of individuals, join in coalition, and really find some sense of freedom or some sense of liberation? I gave him a librarian type answer. Like, yeah, you could, but then you can't. I just was bouncing the scales a little bit because it's kind of a tricky one, But the truth is, if that religion or that spiritual system is older in their perception than your idea, what's older is always going to rule out over what's newer. So at the end of the day, no matter what you talk about planning and what you talk about doing, if they're a part of a blind faith religion, for instance, they're always going to fall to something of blind faith. So they can be dismantled very quickly and easily by a blind faith additive to whatever it is that you're doing. So for instance, you may start a movement, say, hey, we're going to start an eco village. We're going to, start some schools. We're going to eat healthy. We're going to have our own land. We're going to put up our own electricity, drill our own water wells. We're going to set up a school where we can use it as a town meeting place, but also to work with the children at the level that we want to. Maybe we'll manufacture some stuff. We'll make something, whatever, right? All you have to do is be infiltrated by an old salt type. And they may come in preaching. And they'll say everything you're saying. But then they'll throw the old salt on top of it. You see, they could be a preacher. So now what happens is everybody who still has that salt deep inside of them, their attention will shift over there. And that person will become like a proverbial Pied Piper and will lead the people right out of the work. You see? Right out of it. And you won't catch it, or people won't, because they'll still be using your rhetoric, but with their flavor. Remember what we were talking about earlier. Ye are the salt of the earth. But what good is salt that has lost its flavor? Well, what do we typically use salt for, right? We use salt to bring out the flavor in things. We use salt as a preservative. We use salt as an enhancer to something, right? So we eating something, we say, oh, it's kind of bland. Give me some salt and put some salt on it, right? So salt is supposed to bring out the latent message, or the latent feeling, or the latent taste and somatic experience that exists within something. In alchemy, those of you who were at the alchemy webinar, you may remember this, but salt is related to the soul. Okay, much different than sulfur. Sulfur is also, a lot of times they relate it to the soul, but salt lies beneath the sulfur, because sulfur is more of a fire element, and salt is more of a steadfast, immovable element. Salt existed. It's just like if you were able to take all of the saltwater rivers of the world and the saltwater oceans, and you were able to boil them, right, and just keep boiling them down, what you'd have at the bottom of that is salt. You'd have salt. So and salt again comes from that mineral halite. Okay, halite, and halite is it's a combination of halos and ite, and halos means the sea, or it can also mean salt, and ite means stone, like meteorite, granite, ite, that's stone. So it's halite, right? And that's basically sea stone or salt stone. And of course the salt comes off of that, right? And there's a lot of things that we use salt for, and of course you can't talk about salt without talking about Yemoja. We got to bring it to the spiritual aspect again. And that with Yemoja, there's a connection to salt water, which is also a connection to seawater, though she's not a sea deity. A lot of people think that, but she's actually a saltwater deity. It's just that in a lot of places sometimes where we live, we don't have saltwater rivers, so we only imagine salt being in the sea. But in certain places in the world you go, and even in America, you have saltwater rivers. Those are sacred to Yemoja. Every river is not Oshun. There's fresh water is Oshun, salt water is Yemoja. Now all the waters of the land, like the ocean, that's Olokun. That's why Ikun or Kun means ocean in Yoruba. All right. But again, the Thunderground Thursday, we're not going to get too far into that. But anyway, so of course, there's a connection between moon energy. There's a connection with sea energy, and there's a connection with that salt energy. Okay, because they're all related to that rock. That rock is that immovable aspect. So when you're talking about someone who is putting the salt, right, on a message that they're bringing, it's supposed to bring out the finer points or the finer meanings. It's supposed to enhance the actual message, because that salt is the soul. It's representative of the soul. So it's the soul or the will, the heart that you put in the rhetoric that makes it not rhetoric anymore. You see? But when you abuse that and you use too much, it coats the tongue. And now it becomes something that takes away from this flavor. So it's a good example people do that with. Broccoli. I've seen people do that with. They make broccoli. I know some people who like to make broccoli with butter and like butter sauce or something like that. I've seen that before. I've seen broccoli with cheese, and then I've seen broccoli tempura, and then they put a lot of salt or soy sauce on that, right? So by the time you do all of those different things, and I'm not faulting. I mean, heck, if you eat broccoli, great, good for you. That could be a step up. Maybe you eating pig's ears, before that. So no judgment there. Well, no condemnation there. So the thing is, though, by time you manipulate and you put so much salt into these things and you brine them, basically, you can no longer taste them. The flavor is gone. So the message that energy or that vegetable, that food is trying to convert to you or convey to you is now being overshadowed by the salt that was only supposed to exist under it and enhance it. So when I'm speaking to you and I'm doing these segments, is my focus on sounding good? Is my focus on sounding good, or is my focus on giving you something good to hear and to use? Forget hear. Giving you something good to listen to and to apply. You see? Now, I may use a little salt here and there because my soul is in what I'm doing. Okay? But see, whenever we're dealing with the concept of salt, salt reminds us of the originality of things, because salt, again, exists at the base of a lot of things. Just like at the base of the oceans, you have these large craters of rock, just what they call rock salt. And with those large craters, there's salt to be found in them. When those parts of the ocean, when they start to evaporate and the water comes out, and this is many, many, many years ago, what's left there, those deposits, are what they call rock salt. Okay, so with that, you find that salt represents something that's old. So, like Yemoja, salt represents things that are deeply rooted inside of us. When we start dealing with past life regression, the concept of salt comes up, you see. So that's always going to be there. My true salt is always going to be present. My true salt. So even no matter how much I may start Thunderground Thursdays or Foundation Friday or Chief Speaks Off a certain way, at some point, if like people tell me sometimes that, when so-and-so called or this person called, I just knew you were going to say this, because you guys are now getting used to my original resonating tone, or the salt that comes out that peeks its head out sometimes. You're getting used to, okay, if somebody keeps calling the show, if somebody calls the show in every strong, at least by the third time they call in, I'm going to clown them. Just cause. I ain't have to do anything for it, but just cause, that's just what I do. Now I'm still going to give them the information, but you call 3 times now. I mean, we're practically family, so I'm going to make jokes now, but that's a part of that salt rearing its head, but I don't make it, the performance does not become the bulk in the vein of what it is that I'm bringing to you. In fact, there is no performance. You may be entertained. Like some people will come and say, oh, funny show. Like last Sunday, everybody said, oh, funny show. I had to go back and listen. I don't like listening to shows. I went back and listened because I'm like, what was so funny? I didn't remember doing a funny show, but I went back and listened, and I was like, oh, okay, I guess. But my focus was on the information, you see. But if the salt comes up, that's going to happen. So you have to be careful with that when you are dead set on bringing some of your old paradigms into your new situation, because you don't want to break out of the old and then break into the new. Sometimes it's not so easy just as breaking out of your old patterns and all of a sudden you slip and slide, and into the new one. It doesn't always work that way. A lot of times when you break out of the old, you're going to have to break into the new. We got to take it here for a second, but think about our sacred Odu being the womb. When a baby is born, what does it do? Rarely does it just going to slip out. It's not just going to come out like that. It's got to break out of that womb. Get me out of here. I want to be where the action is. And then what happens? A lot of times, especially if we're dealing with 2 virginal energies, there is a breaking to go back into the womb. There's a breaking of an opening, especially if it's virginal energies joining together, you see. So you got to break out and then break in to make it happen. And so many people are afraid of that. So they don't want those resets. They don't want to go from Chief Speaks all the way through to Thunderground Thursday and then the Foundational Friday. I gotta start over Foundation Friday again. Yeah, you do. It's always a constant process of breaking in, breaking out, breaking in, breaking out, breaking in, breaking out. And when you're doing that, you're shaking up the salt. So that way other people's salt vibration is not all over you. So now when you go out, even though you're talking, I could be talking about Buddhism next strong, or I could be talking about this, talking about that, but it always kind of sounds like the same message. There was a salad bar I used to eat at like that, and I had to stop because I noticed every time I eat them, no matter what I take off of this salad bar, it feels like I'm just eating vinegar. No matter what it is, chickpeas, or if they have some hummus that day and some falafel or whatever it is, by the time I eat it, I just have a plate of vinegar. So I stopped eating there. The food, to me, the message of the food got old. And for a lot of us, especially those who are so frustrated that the youth are not following, the youth are not tuning in, the youth are not joining, it's because they're sick of that old salt. Now the soul, the salt that's really at your vibratory place, it is moving, it's transforming, it's shaking up, it's evaporating. There's enough new stuff there for a lifetime. But it's those outer incrustations of the salt that you overdid it with. The bad salt, the chemical salt, not the rock stuff. The chemical salt that people are sick and tired of. So no matter what you're talking about, it sounds like the same thing. Sometimes people are like that in relationships. Some of those people we'll call needy. No matter what they do in the relationship, you can feel a sense of neediness. You can feel a sense of clinging, even when they're trying to love you. And what happens is you decide, I don't want this love. I don't like how it feels. I feel that there's an obligation that's going to be attached to this. You know, it doesn't feel pure. It doesn't feel like it's coming from the soul. You know. And some people, after a while, from getting lost in things, they lose their flavor. They lose their original flavor. You know, we have a term we say, oh man, a person's acting salty, meaning like they're being mean or whatever. But your saltiness is your charm. Real salt, not chemical salt. Real salt is actually like sugar. It's sweet. A lot of you probably know that. Salt is not really salty, quote unquote, but it's actually sweet. You know, some people, they keep red salt in their mouth. You know, like a piece of candy. You know. So sometimes it's the type of salt that we're attaching ourselves to. It's the type of experiences, and we haven't recharged one another. We haven't shaken the old salt off of one another so that we can restore that better place, or we haven't put each other through a boiling process. Like I said, you boil those shallow places down. You boil down all of Yemoja's territory. You're gonna have the salt just sitting there. And that's the pure, more closer stuff to the original. But we don't want to go through that fire. We don't want to go through the boiling. So we stop at a point. And then we make all the excuses in the world for not moving forward, for allowing ourselves to go through the boiling, letting our true self come through. So I just thought about that, you know, looking at that video that was sent to me. And the individual, and I'm saying, this joker is just a straight phony. But I guess you wouldn't be able to see it, because what you really want, despite your investments in knowledge, you want old salt. You want somebody who's gonna look like that. Imagine the next brilliant person that comes out of our community. What if he had the same exact swagger, feel, and cadence and tone of Minister Louis Farrakhan? Just think about it. He'd be huge no matter what he's talking about. And all he'd have to do, he could, and let's say if he stole all of Amos Wilson's material, that's all he talked about. But you didn't know, because we're not a people of memory. We don't study anything. So we don't actually know when somebody's just spouting rhetoric. But he had the swagger of Louis Farrakhan. It's like that cyborg stuff. Everybody would love him. Why? Because that's the old salt paradigm. Old salt. And sometimes you become that bitter old person when a young person comes and they want to do something completely different. And you become that bitter old person. Why do you want to do it? Why don't you do it this way? This is the way we do it. This is how movements age out. Because they don't allow certain things to be boiled away. Some of us, we're just layers on that original rock salt. I'm a part of that original layer. Believe it or not. I'm a part of heating up the planet and heating up this consciousness so that people like me can be moved and fall out the way so the better stuff can come up. And each person has to have that responsibility of doing that until all of it gets boiled away till we get to the good stuff at the core. We have to be selfless in that sense. You've heard me say a lot of times, my aim is to make myself irrelevant. Who wants to listen to me forever? You know, there's always going to be a newer voice, a more exciting voice, a more vibrant voice, because your excitedness comes through your boiling, through your shaking up, through your surrounding yourself by new people and new experiences, people who are beyond you, people who are beyond your wisdom group. That's what makes you exciting. And there'll come a point when I just don't feel like doing it. I do that a lot now, but I don't feel like doing it anymore. And I don't know, okay, I'm another chip that got to fall. Okay, let me just fall off. Let somebody else come in here. You know, the same way Joe Louis gave rise to Mike Tyson. There had to be a new thing. Jack Johnson gave rise to Joe Louis. You see, new things have to come forth. People got to get out of the way. All right. I want to thank you all for listening. And I'm going to talk about this again, but the next time I talk about it, you're going to be like, wait a minute. You know, because there's different sides of things that I'm going to share with you on just this idea of salt. It's an idea of salt. All right. So that has been our Foundational Friday. I want to thank you all for tuning in, for the time that you did. And I trust and will that you enjoyed this segment. And be sure to comment on the videos and to share the videos and to subscribe to Enlightenment and Transformation TV on YouTube, so you can be abreast of all the stuff we got happening and going on and all the things that we're doing. All right. And until such time, I'm Chief Yuya. I'll see you tomorrow, 9 p.m. Eastern, for Foundational Friday. All right. Until such time, be safe, everyone.
Hey, my man had the trumpet too. When I looked up, I bugged out like, oh,
Yeah, we about to kick it and break it down.
Break it down how it's supposed to be broke or kicked.
I'm gonna tell you this story. I'm up early in the morning, I'm about to roll. Got on my Sunday's best, check out my fly pimp stroll. After sinning all week, it was time to heal. So I go to the place where we bow and kneel. Take a seat in the pews, looking crisp and clean.
Damn, look at the booty on Miss Green.
I shake it off and try not to look flawed. I can't forget, I'm in the house of the Lord. It was kinda bug, so I smirk with laughter. All of a sudden, you walks in the pastor with a tailor-made suit. It was emerald green. He was in the pulpit in a gangster lean, with bling on his neck and his fingers was frozen. I knew something was wrong from the jailhouse posing. He shouted out loud for protection's sake, lock the doors and knock in the collection plate. He was a
PIMP at the PULPIT. That's where I be at. I be that no good hood with the jerked out limb.
I'm a church house pimp,
spitting him, sipping hen, devilish adrenaline. From Genesis to Benjamins, bring them in by the flock. Now our brother's hood rich.
pimping at the pulpit. Kind of man use the Lord just to make $1. Read scripture and make the people holler. Wear fake collars, the foolish flock. But he drinks and smokes and plays pool a lot. Ayo, he foolish, he think nobody watching. God never sleeps, son, God be clocking. It ain't hard to spot ungodly lust. Mad fake like money, saying God we trust. Preachers just like us. Matter of fact, they worse, they all sin, have sex, smoke crack and curse. Like to practice first, before they read from their Bible. And ladies, be careful, they really wanna wife you. It's all a cycle, big business in church. You hating what I'm saying, but the truth it hurts. Yo, they stupid jerks, don't follow their program. Beware of pimp suit, slick talk from no man. They
PIMP at the PULPIT. That's where I be at. I be that no good hood with the jerked out limb.
I'm a church house pimp,
spitting him, sipping hen, devilish adrenaline. From Genesis to Benjamins, bring them in by the flock. Now a brother's hood rich.
From pimping at the pulpit, more people better go to masses, so we can stop seeing our women shaking their asses. Every brother just swear he pimping, talking slick, sucking spit, walking limping. Everybody just wanna get over, living in bliss, wickedness, but they dying sober. Devils move sliding cobras. Who's the joke? Crime broke, but they buying rovers. All a man wanna do is divide us, feed us mad fried food so we could get the itis. Every chick wanna look like J-Lo, playing it off like they angels, but they lost their halo. The city wanna see us in cages. I'm about to swallow the red pill so I can fight the matrix. Yo, I can't take their hatred. I love my peoples dearly, but I hate this fake shit.
Fake ass and shaded, drives a Mercedes, pimping on the latest. It's still bullshit to me. Ex-pimps and players, $1,000 gators, living on trifle trees. you. They pimps at the pulpit, wearing it the shoe fit, still bullshit to me. Drives on Mercedes, pimping on the ladies, it's still bullshit